The Wells Report returns in 30 seconds. Helps to turn on the microphone north to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. For you TGIF fans, sure happy it's Thursday. It is the 29th day of February. It's Leap Day. And this is the year 2024, year of our Lord 2024. Good morning. I'm John David Wells. On this broadcast, we report the news honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. In short, we depropagandize the mainstream media. We make commentary. That's not news. Commentary is opinion. Yours and mine, and so we debate. News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. Hi, I'm John David Wells. Good morning. It's cold and rainy. It's the closest thing we have to winter in Texas, certainly this year, because days like this, Antarctica is not this cold. The wind is blowing, it's overcast, it's raining, and it's cold. I certainly hope you're warmer wherever you're watching this broadcast. And good morning. Good to be here. So, yesterday, the Supreme Court of the United States decided to hear bump stock arguments regarding whether or not a bump stock makes a weapon a machine gun. Now, there are those of us who believe that that's ridiculous because if you take the bump stock and you set it over here and you take the rifle that you want to put it on over here, neither of those is a machine gun. The combination of those is theoretically a machine gun, depending on who you talk to. The Congress of the United States did not pass a bump stock ban. Why is there a bump stock ban? Well, because the ATF, an executive branch agency, decided that it was an automatic weapon. Well, who gave them that authority? That's what the Supreme Court is attempting to find out. We've got a report on that, and we're going to play it for you. This is something that many people have been wondering about for a long, long time. All it is, basically, as far as I'm concerned, is ingenuity. This is the progression of technology, and the Supreme Court has to decide one way or another whether or not the ATF has the power to decide that ingenuity actually equals a crime. This is what the report says.
The Supreme Court is hearing arguments on the Trump-era ban on bump stocks today. The ban came after a gunman used rifles equipped with bump stocks to kill 60 people and injure hundreds more in Las Vegas back in 2017. But a Texas gun store owner argued the restriction is unlawful. Judges ruled in his favor, but the Biden administration challenged the ruling, arguing that a semi-automatic rifle equipped with bump stocks falls within the definition of a machine gun. CBS News chief legal correspondent Jan Crawford joins us now to speak more about those arguments today. Jan, good morning. Thanks for being with us. Want to ask what law really is at the heart of this case?
Well, I mean, this kind of goes back to a law that's been around for almost 100 years. In fact, it was passed back in the 1930s after the St. Valentine's Day massacre to ban machine guns. And Congress has kind of always reinforced that over the years. And no court, including the Supreme Court, has ever suggested that you got a Second Amendment right to own a machine gun. But as you pointed out, in 2017, in the wake of that horrible killing in Las Vegas, Congress, because the gunman had used bump stocks, Congress decided that it should also ban bump stocks, much as it bans machine guns. But of course, being Congress, they failed to do that. So in comes the ATF and says, fine, Congress, we'll do it. They passed a regulation that said we're going to consider that bump stocks are machine guns for that definition because they act just in the same way they make a gun like a machine gun, the rapid fire, that kind of thing. So at any rate, that's where we are. The ATF passed this regulation saying that bump stocks, by their definition, should be treated like machine guns and also banned. And then, as you said, in comes the gun owner and says, wait a minute, the ATF doesn't have that power to change the law like that. So that's where we are today. Does the ATF have the authority to kind of redefine what a machine gun is?
And I don't believe they do. And I don't believe a lot of other people believe they do. There was, of course, some interesting circumstance that many people have pointed to. This from Outkick. The Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson apparently does not know what a bump stock does. As a matter of fact, this is something that I found with regards to the left of America. What ends up happening is that these people don't really know what they're talking about, and they draw the wrong conclusions. And that has happened in this case. The Supreme Court, as you just heard from CBS News, heard oral arguments yesterday in a case to determine whether the federal ban on bump stocks issued by the ATF will stand or be struck down. The core of the issue is the ATF, not Congress, issuing a ruling to ban them. Congress is supposed to make the law. The ATF enforces them. I have said many, many times on this broadcast and elsewhere that I don't believe that executive branch agencies should have enforcement capability, except the ATF is a federal law enforcement agency. Obviously, a federal law enforcement agency should have the ability to enforce law. The question is, do they have the ability to enforce policy or regulation? These regulations have not been passed by Congress. Well, who makes law? The answer is Congress makes law in this governmental system. So why is it that the ATF is able to make law just because of their own agency policy? That's what the Supreme Court is supposed to try here today or yesterday. And that's where they heard the oral arguments. The Supreme Court will decide if the ATF ruling following the Las Vegas shooting has any merit. Unfortunately, the case rests on incredibly cringeworthy moments and misinformation being spread, according to Outkick. A bump stock, as you just heard, is a piece of equipment that replaces a rifle's regular stock. It uses the weapon's natural recoil to increase the rate of fire by driving the trigger back to the shooter's finger. The weapon still needs the trigger to be pulled for every shot, but it does allow an increase in how that can happen. The new Supreme Court Justice, Ketanji Brown Jackson, is under the impression it can fire at a rate no human has ever seen before. Listen to what she had to say. Quote, "The function of this trigger is to cause kinds of damage, 800 rounds a second or whatever," said Justice Jackson. Really? She then did it again a few seconds later when she stated it can function in the same way insofar as it automatically allows for 800 rounds to be released. Apparently, the justice believes a bump stock is capable of making a weapon fire 800 rounds a second or whatever. That translates to 48,000 rounds a minute. It is comically false, according to Outkick, and an absurd claim. For comparison, the M134 minigun, which is a Gatling gun with 6 barrels that rotates very, very quickly, and each barrel fires. It is a brutal and ruthless weapon on the battlefield. It is unbelievably illegal for civilians to own. It has a known rate of fire at 100 rounds a second, which, by the way, is completely ridiculous. I mean, from a standpoint of rate of fire, are you kidding me? The justice believes bump stocks can fire 8 times that rate of fire. In reality, the rate of fire is somewhere around 600 rounds a minute on average for a weapon with a bump stock, but it doesn't stop there. She doesn't apparently realize that that is a cyclic rate of fire. It is not that means that if you have an unlimited amount of rounds that the weapon can fire, that it would fire 600 rounds a minute. It would also melt the rifle. It would just melt it. There's too much heat and so on. The biggest magazine, well, it's not the biggest magazine, but the most common magazine that you can find for an AR-15 weapons platform or even an AK-47 weapons platform is 30 rounds. So you have to change magazines. So you can fire 30 rounds very quickly if you'd like to, but you can't have 800 rounds a second. You just can't do that. And when you're thinking about a national law, when you're thinking about trying to interpret a constitutional impact of that law, you kind of sort of have to know what you're talking about. Now, to be fair, to be absolutely fair, this may have been just a misstatement on the part of the justice. But it's happened so many times by people who are trying to invalidate the Second Amendment, which protects the people of the United States from an overarching tyrannical government, which we have seen in play. When you're dealing with something along this line, I believe you probably ought to know what you're talking about, and you probably ought to be more careful with your languaging of that issue. That's what I believe. What do you believe? 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. And then it got just a little bit more ridiculous when the justice asked this question. Why would even a person with arthritis, why would Congress think they needed to shoot 400 to 700 or 800 rounds of ammunition under any circumstance? This, by the way, was not from Ketanji Brown Jackson. This was from Justice Sotomayor. Apparently, you lose your Second Amendment rights if you have arthritis, as far as she's concerned. Okay, so these justices are capable of upholding or striking down law that impact your life. One believes that it can be stripped because of arthritis. The other thinks bump stocks create the fastest rate of fire in human history. It's also worth noting that these rates of fire don't mean anything. This is what I talked about before. Outkick catches up with this. When it comes to total firepower, because the standard AK-15 and AK-47 magazine holds 30 rounds. You can't fire ammo you don't have. Having a rate of fire of 600 rounds a minute, I love allergies. Being able to have a rate of fire of 600 rounds a minute, yes, is awesome. It also means, excuse me, you have to reload 20 times before you hit 600 shots. That's everyone who has any experience with weapons knows this. KJB and Sonia Sotomayor apparently don't know what they're talking about, and it's just complete nonsense according to Outkick. In this particular case, I completely agree. These people need to know what they're talking about. Where are their law clerks? Where are the people that make this information available to the justices before they start talking? I don't have any idea, but apparently they're not doing their jobs. The circumstance goes like this. What is lost in this conversation is the fact that the people of the United States have a right to defend themselves. In Federalist 29, it says, according to Alexander Hamilton, he says that why in heaven's name would force be the sole possession of an authority or an authoritarian government? Why would that be the case? The answer is it wouldn't be. In the United States of America, we have been framed by those brilliant minds of the 18th century. We've been framed to be able to hold a government at bay, if necessary, on an individual basis. Those are Supreme Court rulings that go back as far as you want to go back to this particular issue regarding these kinds of determinations. And so when you look at all of this, when you see all of this, the answer is clear. The answer is clear. And I believe that the American people, and I believe that this court had better find that way, but this looks like another one of those circumstances where we may have a split court decision. Now, theoretically, and I only say theoretically because it's theoretical, there are decisions that are made that are made by people who would be, like I said, theoretically conservative because they were conservative justices appointed by Donald Trump. There's a 6-3 conservative liberal bias in the court. Now the question is, will John Roberts, will some of the other justices on the conservative wing of the court decide to come up with a novel interpretation of the Second Amendment in this case? I don't know. What do you think? 817-379-2172, 817-379-2172. This is the Wells Report. Back in just a moment.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
Good morning. This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Our telephone number 817-379-2172. So why did the Congress make a mistake on this? Because they don't believe they need a bump stock law. And the ATF moved ahead. And the Supreme Court is now looking at all of this saying, really? I mean, the Supreme Court isn't saying really. But those of us who are watching the Supreme Court that believe that the Second Amendment is a vital, important part of the compact between the people of the United States and this government, we're all saying, really? Apparently, in the Senate, there is someone else who is also agreeing with that particular point of view. Iowa Senator Joni Ernst has introduced legislation to protect gun owners from what critics have called a Biden administration crackdown on gun dealers as a part of a larger anti-gun push by the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, Explosives, and so on. The bill introduced on Tuesday of this week, will provide firearm licensees an opportunity to correct statutory and regulatory violations and for other purposes. Here's what's happening. The ATF has come up with a bunch of what are called arcane regulations and then confiscating the licenses of gun dealers who do not navigate these arcane regulations properly. In other words, they're saying, well, you're not properly following our regulations, therefore your license is revoked. Well, that is the same kind of regulatory abuse, overreach, etc., that I've been talking about. Executive branch agencies cannot have enforcement capability, but this is the confounding thing about that. How does the FBI function, or how does the DOJ function? How do all of these agencies function without enforcement capability? Well, in my particular case, I believe that what they should do is petition the government of the United States through vote. I was going to say voice vote, and I got stuck on that. They have to request enforcement capability from the Congress of the United States. Now, you can't make it the judicial branch because the judicial branch is essentially corrupt from a political standpoint. I'm not talking about corrupt from a law or ethics standpoint. I'm talking about strictly from a political standpoint. So it's quite possible that a judge would say, sure, go ahead and enforce that. Now, that would also trigger an appeals process, which would slow all of this stuff down. And I'm reasonably sure that eventually the appeals process would reach a court that said, no, I'm sorry, the Second Amendment wins. And so that might be the case. What's also good about this is that the Supreme Court of the United States is willing to curtail enforcement efforts on other kinds of executive branch agencies, specifically the EPA. This is a circumvention of the Constitution of the United States by virtue of these executive branch agencies, arguably a fourth branch of government. You've heard that said. You've heard it talked about as the administrative state. Well, this is a problem. And the question is, will the Supreme Court of the United States continue to confront this problem? And that gets back to the political makeup of the Supreme Court, regardless what Chief Justice John Roberts says. There are political implications involved in the panel that is the Supreme Court of the United States. He bravely said that there were no leftist judges, there were no right-wing justices. No, there's only justice in the Constitution. Well, that's the way it's supposed to be. I agree. But that is not the way it is. And you know it. And we have seen it. So where does this go? How does this resolve itself? That is the question before us today and before the Supreme Court of the United States. And so we have to figure this out. By the way, while we're on the subject of this, the Supreme Court has also decided to hear the presidential immunity case and has postponed the federal elections interference case by Jack Smith insofar as they're waiting for their decision. There are some very interesting statements being made by people of the left, and we're going to have some of those for you as we continue on this Thursday morning. Telephone number 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. Join us. Tell us what you think about this. I'm a talking head. I tell you what I think, but that's not the way it works. It's because of the voters of the United States. That's the way it works. Back in a moment.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost. How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Good morning. This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Our telephone number is 817-379-2172. We're talking a little bit about the Supreme Court of the United States, hearing arguments about whether or not a bump stock renders a weapon to be fully automatic. Not because of congressional action, not because of law that they have to interpret, but because of a regulation from the ATF. I want to show you something else, by the way, when we're talking about how Sonia Sotomayor, talking about arthritis as to whether or not somebody needs to fire a weapon that fast, and Ketanji Brown Jackson, that justice, not really knowing what she's talking about. I want to show you something else here. Check this out. You see this? This was an Instagram post it says that 97% of guns in the United States are in the red territories. 97% of all gun violence is in blue. Now, the thing about that is that the USA Today looked at all of that and said, "No, sorry, that's false." That Instagram post showed a map of the U.S. with much of the country shaded red. Small pockets of the map, particularly on the West Coast, are shaded blue. 97% of all guns are in the red territory. 97% of all violence is in blue. It was liked more than 10,000 times in a week. Similar versions accumulated thousands of additional likes. As you can see here, the USA Today circumstance says, nope, that's false. The map shows the results of the 2016 presidential election by congressional maps. It's not based on gun data. There's no credible count of firearms in each congressional district, according to experts. While the map suggests a correlation between high numbers of guns and low rates of violence, the opposite is true according to experts and published research. Not true. This is incorrect. The numbers posted are fabricated or bad guesses. I would say so. There are several reasons why the claim on the post is baseless, according to multiple experts. First, the map is not based on gun data. Shows the voting results of the 2016 presidential election by congressional district. Was originally published in 2017. Districts that voted for Democrat candidate Hillary Clinton in the elections are blue, while those that went for Republican Donald Trump are red. The post also leaves out several other key pieces of information. It does not identify the source of 97% of claims or explains how they were calculated. I assume the numbers in the post are fabricated or bad guesses, said Andrew Morrill, the director of the National Gun Collaborative on Violence Research at the RAND Corporation. The post fails to specify what's meant by gun violence as well, which can include homicides, suicides, accidental shootings, said Dr. Matthew Miller. So this is what we find ourselves in. We find ourselves in a situation where this kind of data is put out there. Now, what you need to keep in mind is that not all of this fact checking, for example, not all of this is actual fact checking. They're only fact checking part of it. And this is the insidious point. This is the insidious point I keep making when it comes to propaganda. Successful propaganda is the science of what you leave out, not what you put in. And they're leaving out all kinds of things. In point of fact, this map is basically correct. All of these blue enclaves are Democrat places that voted for Hillary Clinton. And yes, you see areas of blue that are saturated with gun violence. That is true. And yes, it's very likely true that 97% of all guns are in the red territory, but they don't know. In other words, this is not information that is provable. It is an assumption. It is a guess. It is, in other words, probably not true, but in general terms, you would say, well, yeah, that makes sense because all of this information, the information that I'm showing you, the coasts are where most of the gun violence is, and the red part of this is where most of the gun violence isn't. So we have someone joining us. Randy, thanks very much for joining us. Welcome to the Wells Report. Good to have you here.
Good morning, JD. I appreciate your little talk there on the bump stocks.
Yeah, I mean,
interesting.
We've got something here that I think is really, really important, and it sort of strips away the politics of all of it, the shrill people saying that weapons are the problems when it's actually criminals, and so on. But what it strikes to the heart of is these regulatory agencies like the ATF imposing their regulations as law without benefit of a congressional vote. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think they're overstepping their boundaries. The same thing with suppressors. Honest opinion, they're out of control, but that's only me.
Well, and the thing about it is I don't believe that any thinking person could believe otherwise. They've never been reined in except for one Supreme Court decision regarding the EPA, which should have sent a shot across the bow, pardon the pun, a shot across the bow of these other executive branch agencies. Now, what's interesting to me is that, okay, the ATF is a federal enforcement authority. It is a federal law enforcement authority. And I have no problem with them enforcing federal law. I do have a problem with them enforcing their regulations as law.
Correct. Yeah, I agree with you 100%.
So how do we get around this? Do we say that the regulations that are created out of whole cloth by the ATF is law, or what do you think the remedy might be?
No, it needs to go up in front of the folks that actually make it law. Because it's a regulation that's not approved, that doesn't make it something that should hold people liable in a court of law. If that makes sense.
It does. It makes ultimate sense to me. But then there's this wild card of the Supreme Court. What do you think they're going to do with this? How do you think this is going to shake out?
Honestly, I think it's going to be ugly just because, like you were talking about, the colors involved on the blue side and the red side. I mean, right now, they're just trying to hamper anything they can to do with gun rights. They want to take them all away. So that's just my opinion, of course.
Now, when you say they, are you talking about the Supreme Court or are you talking about the ATF?
Both.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I honestly feel that way because I feel it's I mean, I'll be blunt. I think it's the Democrats that just don't want anything to do with weapons, and they would like to see us disarmed.
Let me ask
you.
Yeah, I understand. Let me ask you this question. So they believe indeed that there is a reason to have what they call weapons of war available to them, but not available to the people of the United States. That was made apparent when the Capitol was encircled in razor wire and 24,000 American troops were there with real weapons of war, M16s, not AR-15s, but real weapons of war pointed at, us. And so this strikes at the heart of rules for thee, but not for me. Is that the way you see it?
Exactly.
I mean, go ahead.
I was going to say, you see it happening in a lot of the states too. Look at Illinois with their Safety Act. It's I don't know. I just don't know where it's going, and it's all party driven, and that's the part that scares me the most.
Yeah, I believe that leftists have absolutely taken over the Democrat Party, and while I do believe that there are real Democrats, Joe Manchin, Tulsi Gabbard, people of that cloth, I believe that the Democrat Party has absolutely lost its way. That's not a partisan statement. That's just an observation on my part.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think that's pretty much commonplace across the country right now.
I've been asking for a long time about just exactly why the warpage of the Second Amendment has occurred. This is a very plain and straightforward thing. It's backed up by, as I said earlier, Federalist 29, where Alexander Hamilton said, look, force is not going to be the sole, or should not be the sole possession of government. And I agree 100%.
Yeah, I agree as well.
Yeah, this is one of those situations where this warpage is based on politics. And I brought this up before. The word is not inalienable, which means nothing. It's unalienable. In other words, laws cannot be passed against a God-given right. And that they would try to do that is clearly unconstitutional to me. And this, for me, if I was sitting on the Supreme Court of the United States, everybody run for cover. If I'm sitting on the Supreme Court of the United States, I would find that instantly.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think the Supreme Court is just, I don't want to use the words failing us. I don't think they're doing us the justice they should be, if that makes any sense.
I believe it makes ultimate sense. And Randy, thanks very much for your time this morning here on the Wells Report.
Appreciate you having me, JD.
You betcha, man. Thank you, man. Take good care, and thank you. So our circumstance is a relatively simple one in my view. The farther we get away from the adoption of the Constitution of the United States, the more blurred the Constitution becomes. And it's fascinating to me that we, the people of the United States, allow this to continue happening. Further, that blurring of the Constitution is both exacerbated by congressional acts, which takes us right back to the genius of the entire circumstance on the Bill of Rights, when they said these are unalienable rights. You can't put a legislative lien on God-given rights. And so how did we get to the point where these justices of the Supreme Court and all of these political figures acting for political reasons believe that disarming the people of the United States is a good idea. And then you contrast all of what I just said with the fact that our southern border is open. Our southern border is wide open. There are 400,000 Chinese nationals wandering around in the United States doing what? They're military-age males. They don't have families. What are they doing here? And somehow the idea, the plain idea that what we have is we have a reason or some sort of need to disarm the people of the United States. Just in the face of the onslaught of illegal immigration, a lot of them from our national enemies, both terrorists and China, and from Eastern Europe, et cetera, et cetera. When all this is happening, you want to disarm the people of the United States, really? And arguably, do you really want to take away our bump stocks? When obviously, if those people in this particular circumstance would certainly have weapons with automatic capability, what are you talking about? And you're saying, John David, that seems kind of far-fetched. Your tinfoil hat is looking very shiny this morning, but that's not true, is it? All we have to do is go to the most recent example of what happens when a totally defenseless populace is confronted with people who don't care about law, don't care about common decency, don't care about humanity in any way, shape, or form. And I'm talking about Palestinian terrorists overflowing the border of the Gaza Strip, rushing into Israel and killing as many Jews as they could find. Do you think that those people that were the victims of that onslaught would like to have an AR-15 or an AK-47 with a bump stock? Certainly in retrospect, but even more poignant at the time of the attack. What is our government doing? What is their motivation? What are they trying to accomplish? You know, this political action to render us defenseless in the face of a wide open southern border with all manner of military-age males from countries all over the earth, including our enemies, coming into our nation and just being let out, just being sent along. Oh yeah, you have to show up in 7 years for your immigration hearing. You know, and I realize that this sounds conspiratorial, but the simple case of the matter is that it's not a conspiracy to think that the rain might fall someday. And so you take reasonable precautions. You buy an umbrella, you get yourself some really good wet weather gear. You stand by for the rain. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's prudence. That's a word that was used by these brilliant men from the 18th century who framed this nation. Prudence. And so we had, by gosh, better show some prudence here, in my humble opinion. And what does that mean? Well, first of all, it means using the most powerful weapon at the disposal of the people of the United States. That is a vote. The second most powerful, the right to self-defense. And I've said on this broadcast, and I'll continue to say wherever anybody wants to hear what I have to say, you got two choices. You can either arm yourself, prepare for that rainy day, or you can find out how to use a really good first aid kit. You can obtain the first aid kit, and you can learn how to use it. That is equal prudence. But it seems to me that what needs to happen is that Americans who are anywhere interested in anything we've discussed in this particular segment of the Wells Report should choose one or the other. The rain is coming. The rain is coming. And if you want another example, look back to the summer of 2020. Where did those people come from? Were they held accountable? In most cases, no. And why weren't they held accountable? Because politicians involved in both law enforcement and policy decided that it was okay that they do what they do. Yeah, we have problems. The rain is coming. This is the Wells Report. Stick around. We'll be right back with more in just a moment.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
This is the Wells Report. John David Wells at your service. Telephone number 817-379-2172. I want to thank Randy for giving us a call earlier today to talk a little bit about this idea that our Second Amendment somehow doesn't apply in the new century. I find that destructive on its face. And I talked a little bit about self-defense. So there is a county in Georgia. It's called Athens-Clarke County. That is where nursing student Laken Riley was murdered by an alleged illegal immigrant. This, by the way, from Fox News, but it's not written properly. There is no doubt that the person who is guilty, or perhaps guilty, sorry about that, I was jumping ahead. This person who is charged with the murder of Laken Riley is an illegal alien. Okay, it's not alleged. The allegation is that he murdered her. But it's no longer properly to say that the illegal immigrant that may be responsible for this killing was alleged to be an illegal immigrant. He is. So there's a sheriff in that county, as you might expect, Athens-Clarke County, and his name is John Williams. Sheriff John Williams appeared on a podcast at some point and said to a reporter from the Athens Politics Nerd, quote, "It's not my intention to cooperate with detainers." Those are the documents that ICE, Immigration's Customs Enforcement, uses to keep someone in jail they believe to be a danger to our society who happens to be an illegal alien. The sheriff went on to say, I see it as the sheriff's responsibility to protect the community. We can't help with a culture of fear in our community and expect our community to respond and help us in these situations. Now, what I'm interested in is on that particular case, in this particular statement, the sheriff is saying he doesn't want to have a culture of fear in his county. For Americans? Oh, no, no, no. No, for illegal immigrants. He doesn't want to have immigrants dealing with fear in his county. Well, there's a small problem with that, insofar as now the culture of fear is among the citizenry. You see, now you're trying to figure out whether or not your daughter or your son or anybody in that county is going to be killed by an illegal immigrant, whether it's by an act of violence or whether it's an act of stupidity like a DUI head-on collision. So this sheriff seems to be interested in making sure there is not a culture of fear among illegal immigration people, the people who are illegal immigrants, but doesn't care about the culture of fear from the crimes being perpetrated on the people of the United States because of these illegal immigrants. And I'm going to make it even more plain. The authors of these policies that first allow an open border, then allow incompetent law enforcement of people breaking the law to join us in this country, and then farther downstream to have law enforcement officers, mayors, etc., proudly declaring that they are going to violate federal law by not enforcing it, have killed Americans in this country. And people say, well, Americans kill people in this country. Yeah, they're Americans. We have ways of dealing with that in rather quick fashion. These people that are coming to our nation and killing us have no business being here in the first place. Therefore, anyone killed by one of these people coming to our nation illegally, gang members, terrorists, all people documented to have crossed our border, and yes, military-age males with no families, to say that somehow there's an equivalence because, well, the American people commit crime. These are just people that are getting along with American crime. No, it's not American crime. It's international crime being perpetrated on the populace of the people of the United States. And it is done so with the cooperation of governments large and small. Seriously? Seriously? This sheriff saying, I'm not going to cooperate with ICE. This guy had been arrested before. He'd been arrested for crimes before. He's an illegal immigrant, an illegal alien. If you get busted for spitting on the sidewalk and you're an illegal alien, you get deported tomorrow. And you spend the night in jail waiting for the flight. And to not do that is un-American. It's dangerous. And all of these people, all of these authors of these policies are killing Americans. They have blood, American blood, on their hands. And they should be sued to high heaven. We'll talk about a wealth transfer to those families. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the way I see it. How about you? 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. Randy called us today. You see, he didn't get his head bitten off. I'm a nice guy. I'm just a big old warm, fuzzy pussycat. You just join me on the phone. Whether you agree or disagree makes no difference. I want to hear what you have to say. 817-379-2172. You can also join us on our chat room. Chat room's available at Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, X, Rumble, Patreon. You can find us. Please do. Tell us what you think. News, analysis, commentary, and yes, debate. That's what we do on this broadcast. It's hard to debate by yourself. Not only is it it's kind of like operating in a vacuum, but if you do debate with yourself, you stand a good chance of going blind. I said it. This is the Wells Report. This is the Wells Report. We'll be back with hour number 2 next.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
Hey, thanks for joining us this morning for the Wells Report, and make sure you share us with all your friends on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Rumble, Patreon, and don't forget to check out our Substack column, which will be coming up a little bit later on this afternoon. When you do all this, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you give us those thumbs up. They are really important. Check the notification box so you know when we're on the air, and whatever you do, join us every morning, Monday through Friday, 9 to 11 a.m. Central Time, for the Wells Report.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
Welcome to the Wells Report. What do we do on this broadcast? We report the news honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We de-propagandize the mainstream media. We make commentary. That's opinion. That's not news. As a matter of fact, when we do opinion, we do it over here. So you know the difference between opinion and news. Share your opinion. I'll share mine. We will debate. That's what we do on this broadcast. We want you to have facts. We want you to have truth. We want you to have solutions. And so it's really hard to do unless you join us. So by all means, please do. Whether you agree with what's happening or not, that is not the issue. The issue is whether or not you have a place to join us and tell us what you think. That is what we do on the Wells Report. And this is Thursday. For TGIF fans all across the world, sure happy it's Thursday. Yeah, I said it. Yeah, sure happy it's Thursday. It's one of those things that we deal with on a regular basis and so on. So as we go through this day and we bring you this news, hang on a second here. Okay. I have to fix all this stuff. Occasionally we have little breakdowns, and that's kind of sort of what happens here from time to time. So as we go through the news, and that is exactly what we're doing on this Thursday, the 29th day, it's Leap Day. This happens every 4 years. We're going to tell you a little bit more about Leap Day coming up later on this hour. So by all means, prepare for that. There is, as we come to this particular edition of the Wells Report, visits to the border by presidents. And the presidents who are coming to the border are doing so in a way to see just exactly what's going on. The president of the United States, Joe Biden, will be going to Texas. Texas, as you know, has seen fit to do the job the federal government is mandated to do by the Constitution of the United States. So consequently, here in Texas, we have a much smaller problem regarding people coming across the border. The president's going to come by and say, this isn't so bad. Well, President Trump is probably not going to go to Texas. He's probably going to go someplace else. But if he comes to Texas, he's going to see a completely different thing. The question is, and it's before us in this 2024 election, whose understanding of the border makes more sense to American voters? And so until we're able to do that, and by the way, we will cover those visits probably tomorrow. We'll cover those visits to the border and let you know what these particular points of view are. That's what we do here on the Wells Report. That's what we do. Let's see. So what do we got going on here? We have a chat room. Most of the people coming across the southern border are military-age men from a lot of different countries. Jenny Bayless said, "Hey, I missed you yesterday." I'm sorry you missed us yesterday. I could see why you missed us on Wednesday because I wasn't here. But no, I'm sorry, Tuesday. I wasn't here. But I am here today, and it's good to be here. Let's see, I have both the Facebook feed and YouTube. So in other words, our message is getting out today. Mike says, shows a mastery of debate. He says volume is kind of low today. Really? Okay, let me see if I can fix that. Testing 1 2 1 2. Is that a little better? Today only happens once every 4 years, and like I said, we'll be talking about Leap Day in just a little bit. Let's see. Mike also says that it appears that that President Trump is coming to Eagle Pass. So if that's the case, thank you very much, by the way, for the update, Mike. I appreciate that. I did not know where President Trump was going. I was assuming he was going someplace else. But if he's coming to Eagle Pass, that's good enough. Because what he will see is he will see the state of Texas doing the job that the government should be doing. And he will doubtless come away with a different opinion as to what's going on. Now, with regard to President Trump, we have been noticing that states, for whatever reason, have decided to move forward with the de facto conviction of Donald Trump creating insurgency and indeed attempting to interfere with the 2020 election. He has not been charged with insurgency, and yet there are states, sometimes judicial, sometimes administrative, that simply say, no, he's guilty of it, and by golly, we're going to take him off our ballot. It has happened again. This time it's happened in Illinois. An Illinois judge, this according to USA Today, barred former President Donald Trump from the state's Republican presidential ballot yesterday over his alleged role in the Capitol riot. We don't do things like this. We don't do things in these United States. These judges are not part of a judicial oligarchy that discerns what is real and what is not. There is due process. People in this nation are not guilty until proven innocent. It is the opposite. Innocent until proven guilty, but not in Illinois, not according to this judge. So why is he not in violation of his oath of office? Well, because nobody's holding him accountable for being in violation of his oath of office. That's why. Why is that? Because these judges are not independent, non-political arbiters of law. They are politicians that are somehow held unaccountable. I don't know what the law in Illinois is. We elect our judges here in Texas, even the Supreme Court justices here. I don't know whether that's the case in Illinois. All I can tell you is whether it is or isn't, this judge has decided that he is an arbiter of law of one. He makes his own decisions, by golly, and that's just the way that is. Well, that's what politicians do. So you need to be elected, sir. And if you're not elected, Illinois law must change. And if indeed you make extra electoral decisions, not based on law, not based on due process, not based on the Bill of Rights, you aren't a judge. You are some kind of despot. Now, that's the way I see it. If you happen to be in Illinois, and we do have people that watch and follow this broadcast in Illinois, if you believe that there's a strong reason why the Illinois judge that we're talking about should be able to remove Donald Trump from the voters' choice in Illinois, by all means, share that with me. 817-379-2172. Let me give you more of the details. This judge barred former President Donald Trump from the state's Republican presidential ballot for his alleged role in a Capitol riot. The decision reignites the battle in Illinois to remove the former president from 2024 balloting. Cook County Circuit Judge Tracy Porter agreed with a group of Illinois voters who argued that Trump should be disqualified for violating a clause of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution. That, by the way, is Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, somehow ignoring Section 1, which says that there will be due process. Well, there will be due process unless your name is Trump, and unless you present a threat to the leftist overthrow of the nation in which we live. In that case, well, a judge can do whatever he wants to. This is a state judge. It's outrageous. It's absolutely outrageous. And it should go down hard and fast with a decision by the Supreme Court of the United States. And that decision truly needs to be 9-0. If it is not 9-0, then we are given the answer that we mostly suspect, at least those of us who've been watching the Supreme Court, that it is no longer an arbiter of the Constitution. It is a super legislature comprised of politicians that are unaccountable to the voters. Likewise, that is something we, the people of the United States, must consider and perhaps remedy. May I suggest that Supreme Court justices be elected during presidential election years for 12-year terms? If that's what they want, so be it. If you want to be politicians, be politicians. But if you're politicians, you are beholden to the public through the vote of the public. It's outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. Advocates in Illinois and around the country have argued that Trump engaged in the insurrection on January 6, 2021. Okay, they can say that if they want to. That's perfectly fine. But to then circumvent due process of law mandated by the Constitution and Bill of Rights is intellectually, morally, and from a particular point of view that I share, it's anti-American. They say that this decision on their part only, made in a vacuum of leftist craziness, again, just my opinion, they say that bars him from serving as president again because of Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, enacted after the Civil War, blocking people from office who engaged in insurrection after previously promising to support the Constitution. And you can see the hypocrisy, can't you? These people are saying, my God, he's in violation of the Constitution, all the while practicing violations of the Constitution and Bill of Rights themselves. Really? That's not the way things work in the United States of America. I wonder what country they live in. Because they don't live in the one that I live in. And I suspect that they don't live in the country that you live in. But this is how far this has gone. This is how far this has gone. And it harkens back to a statement made by President Trump when he said, they're not coming after me, they're coming after you. I'm just standing in the way. If they get away with this, Katie, bar the door. We live in a political oligarchy where if you run afoul of politics, well, you're a criminal. Well, that isn't going to fly either. And yes, those people that sit and worry about this, you need to keep something in mind. We are going to win this. The Constitution is clear. We will win this. What we're arguing about right now is just how loud that conversation is going to be that returns the United States of America to the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. That's all we're arguing about right now. We will prevail in this. Americans will prevail. The Constitution will prevail. The Bill of Rights will prevail. Unalienable. You cannot put liens, laws, in front of God-given rights. And these people honestly believe that our rights are their particular purvey, their possessions. They dole them out based on the political understandings of both themselves and the people that they are examining. So, you voted for Trump, huh? Well, he's an insurrectionist. Excuse me, based on what? Out of order. Yeah. And it's happening right in front of our eyes. Right in front of our eyes. All because we, the people of the United States, keep electing the wrong people. And so, as these advocates and this judge now come together to suspend due process in the United States, President Trump argues the amendment does not apply to former presidents. Of course it doesn't. Why would it? Last I heard, President Trump was not a general or even a devotee of the Constitution, the Confederacy, and a member of the Confederate Army or Chief of Staff or Chief Executive of the Confederacy. This doesn't apply. I believe the Supreme Court will act properly, but I wish I was 100% confident in that. So the state election board said that Trump could run in Illinois' presidential primary. So we have yet another judicial/legal impingement or even obstruction of the Constitution of the United States. 817-379-2172. Somebody points out that indeed the judge is female and the Democrat judge is Tracy Porter. So she's a Democrat. Maybe they do elect their judges. Illinois has some work to do to diselect these people that are destroying this nation, in my view. This is the Wells Report.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
Good morning. This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. And let's spend a little bit of time talking about some other things that are happening in this world. And we will do so by pointing out that a New York appellate judge has rejected an emergency request. This happened yesterday. The emergency request was given to the court by Donald Trump. He suggested that he post a $100 million bond to hold off the $454 million fraud judgment against him. This New York appellate judge said, no, you've got to come up with the $454 million. What that does is it takes away President Trump's cash reserves, and should he not be able to post this $454 million fraud judgment, then he's in a position where Letitia James, the New York State Attorney General, says that she will start seizing his assets. This is a grotesque, in my view, this is a grotesque distortion of American law. Again, what this is a whole bunch of people violating their oaths of office and fealty to the Constitution of the United States. It's very plain. It's very plain. And if they'll do it with President Trump, a former president of the United States, it's a matter of time before the baleful eye of this American disenfranchisement, this American malevolence, turns its eye on you. It's awful. It's just simply awful. So Judge Anil Singh of the State Court's Appellate Division ruled that Trump has to post a bond for the entire judgment. His 3-year probation against running a corporation in New York will remain in force. That probably won't last much longer, but it is in force today. The Supreme Court said yesterday it will decide whether former President Donald Trump can be tried for trying to steal the 2020 election, setting an accelerated schedule to hear the case in April while his criminal trial remains delayed. The court will hear arguments on the week of April 22nd whether the president can be charged criminally for conduct that involved official acts while he was in office. He says without presidential immunity, a president will not be able to properly function or make decisions in the best interests of the United States of America. I agree with that assessment. I agree. Special counsel Jack Smith, who had asked for a faster schedule if the justices wanted to consider Trump immunity, told the court the public interest in a prompt trial is at its zenith. Smith's office declined to comment on the Supreme Court decision. Barbara McCabe, the former U.S. attorney, now a law professor at the University of Michigan, said setting oral arguments for April seems awfully slow. Quote, case can be still tried before the election if they hustle the decision. Yeah, if they hustle the decision and just allow this trial to continue, which, by the way, under these circumstances would be a violation of due process. Again, well, the thing about it is that hustling the decision circumvents due process. That is again, plainly intellectually ignorant and or malevolent and or misconduct. She says justice delayed is justice denied. Well, okay. Well, what about justice that finds Donald Trump innocent? That's the due process thing, once again. And she's teaching law at the University of Michigan. Paul Schiff Berman, a law professor at George Washington University, called it completely unjustifiable for the court to keep Trump's trial on hold while they consider his appeal. All right. Okay. There's no reason the lower court proceeding couldn't continue in the meantime, and if the court ultimately rules that Trump is immune, the proceedings could be discontinued at that time. Yeah. This distortion, this grotesque warpage of American law, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights is, I think, without a whole lot of melodrama, can be stated as perhaps one of the biggest threats to we the people, our freedom and our liberty that any of us have ever seen. Do you agree? Disagree? What do you think? What are your thoughts? 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. That's how you get through to the Wells Report along with our chat room. We continue with the news. We continue with analysis, commentary, and debate in a moment. Until we finish up this is the Wells Report. We'll be back in a moment.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost. How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. John David Wells at your service. There was some news. Fox and Friends covered a lot of it. It had to do with Mayorkas. It also had to do with a conversation with the Denver mayor. Let's join that. Let's see if we can't join that report here on the Wells Report. Let's see what we can do about making that happen as we continue here. This is, again, from Fox and Friends, and let's take a look at this report. All right, let me do that. Let me do that, and then let me do that again, and let me do this. I'm just quicker than most normal human beings.
Moved ahead on impeaching DHS Secretary Mayorkas over his handling of the border crisis.
It all comes as cities like Denver struggle with the overwhelming migrant surge.
That's where we find Lawrence Jones, who got an exclusive interview with the Democrat mayor. Hi, Lawrence.
Hey, good morning, family. Sorry, just having a little. Hey, guys, sorry about that. Having some technical issues, but we're good. I had the opportunity. We've been reaching out to Democratic mayors, sanctuary cities, asking them for a while. Make the case. Why are you a sanctuary city? Why are you doing this? What is the impact on your city? Finally, the mayor of Denver agreed to do an interview with us, and this is what he had to say. Watch. So, Mr. Mayor, you got a tough challenge now. You got 40,000 migrants. That's the highest per capita for any city in the country.
Yes.
At what point does your city reach its breaking point?
Yeah, I think our city is very close to its breaking point now, and we've been talking to leaders in D.C. around the country about why we needed to take action here. I think we have successfully welcomed almost 40,000 migrants in the last year, and we know what it takes to do this successfully. We just need that help, and the things we need are, yes, we need federal dollars, but the most important thing is we need, work authorization for folks when they arrive, and we need those resources at the border so you can add more security at the border, and so you can help process those asylum claims, so the folks that do arrive here can work. The challenge we have is you have someone that'll arrive in Denver who's been admitted on an asylum claim, but their court date for their asylum case is 6 years away. And they're in Denver for 6 years without an ability to work and support themselves. And that means we have to support them, and that's not what they want to do or what we want them to do.
Let's talk about that work authorization. Are you concerned that passing something like this will only incentivize more people to come across the border to take that route?
And this is why I think you do have to do both parts together. You do have to decide on a border admissions policy, and you got to enforce that policy. And I do think part of what's in this proposal is a path to both manage that entry at the border in a way that we can maintain.
Mr. Mayor, what about the folks that can't work? They're not allowed legally to work.
What I've heard from most folks I talked to is like the woman who came up a couple weeks ago. She was a police officer in Venezuela.
Yeah.
She was asked by her government to tear gas a room full of children and elderly people. She said no, went home, and the military police showed up at her house to murder her and her family. She got her kids and walked 3,000 miles to Colorado. I would love nothing more than to hire a Latina, female, bilingual, Spanish-speaking police officer here in the city.
I don't doubt that.
Yeah, that's again intellectually bankrupt. That is just plain foolishness. Yeah, what are you going to do? You're going to import people that break the law and make them police officers? What are you, nuts? Apparently, in my view, yeah, he is, but for whatever reason, that's not being the case. Now, what you need to keep in mind, that's not going to happen. We're just not going to do that. We're not going to have foreigners enforcing American law against Americans. It's not going to happen, especially illegal foreigners. That is absolutely ridiculous. That's my view of that. Now, you need to keep in mind this very same mayor, and that would be Mike Johnson, announced the city is indeed scaling back its commitment to illegal aliens and curtail some of their services and consolidate shelters with the goal of saving the city millions of dollars. During a press conference, Johnson said that over the next month, one shelter will close each week. The closures are expected to reduce the current budget deficit of the city by $60 million. And this is something that I find insidious. So what he says is that the Congress needs to act to create some kind of immigration policy. Okay, that's not going to happen insofar as the food fight regarding immigration involves in facilitating Democrat policy, which is a wide open border and bringing up to 5,000 people a day into our country legally. That's not going to work. That's simply not going to work. And then what he says, well, because they don't want to do that job, we have to spend all this money. That is a false equivalence. It's insidious. It's intellectually bankrupt. You can't do it. But here he is, Denver, in the thrall of leftist action. Let me clarify a couple of things here that I wanted to bring up to you. President Biden and President Trump are both coming to Texas, former President Trump. President Joe Biden will arrive in the southernmost crook of Rio Grande, that's Brownsville, and he's going to be greeted with mariachi bands, a bullfight, and a parade that includes floats from Matamoros, Mexico, the sister city of Brownsville. Really? So it's going to be a celebration of illegal immigrancy? Is that what it's going to be? Yeah. Around the same time, the president will meet with Border Patrol and local law enforcement officers, continuing his pivot toward tough border enforcement as immigration becomes one of his biggest re-election liabilities. Yeah. This, by the way, being reported by USA Today. At the same afternoon, this afternoon, ex-President Donald Trump will arrive upstream in Eagle Pass, where state-run border enforcement efforts have turned the city park into a militarized zone lined with steel fencing and razor wire. Yeah, that's what a closed border looks like. And USA Today, expressing amazing anti-American bias, simply characterizes it as a militarized zone with steel fencing and razor wire. You've got to be kidding. This is just, it's just insidious. It's just absolutely insidious. But that's what we find here in these United States with the mainstream media that is nothing more than the propaganda wing of the Democrat Party. But again, that's just my opinion. Meanwhile, in San Francisco, the city leaders have decided to apologize to black residents for decades of discrimination. And people are wondering whether that's going to be a first step toward reparations. The steps must be carefully followed to consider the apology to prove meaningful. On Tuesday, the 11-member board, the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, unanimously passed a resolution apologizing, quote, to all African Americans and their descendants who came to San Francisco and were victims of systemic and structural discrimination, institutional racism, targeted acts of violence, and atrocities. Really. Reparations scholar Roy Brooks, professor of law at the University of San Diego, editor of the 1999 book, When Sorry Isn't Enough, The Controversy Over Apologies and Reparations for Human Injustice, said an apology alone was not sufficient. Quote, reparations are the redemptive act that makes the rhetoric of an apology meaningful. You can't just say you're sorry and walk away. Okay. So I have pointed out that slavery reparations are no good. Slavery being a crime against humanity, and we're not going to provide huge chunks of government money, taxpayer dollars, to people that never suffered slavery and by people who never, ever participated in slavery. People who didn't participate in slavery are not responsible. People that did not live through slavery are not responsible. The people that did live through slavery are gone. And so reparations for slavery, well, that's not going to happen. So what has happened? Well, now, something that is happening. Now it's being leveraged into reparations, and that is bigotry. Also a crime against humanity. So you see how this works politically? You start with reparations for slavery. That is a no-go. It's simply historically moot. But racism isn't. And so now we're going to provide some kind of, theoretically, we're going to provide some reparations for bigotry. That's how all this works. And yes, bigotry is still present. And so that's how the political game to redistribute wealth to people that society, for whatever reason, has decided to diminish, discriminate against, etc. In our efforts to reduce society's responsibility for that kind of bigotry and racial injustice, we're now foisting that bigotry and racial injustice against another group of people, the theoretical slave owners, or the theoretical bigots that participated in racism. I've never participated in racism. Ever. My money isn't going to go to this effort. Not in any way, shape, or form. But then again, I don't live in California. But once again, California is leading the way to bankrupt this nation. Already $34 trillion in debt and growing. We're going to somehow continue to bankrupt the nation by apologizing to people who deal with racism when racism is used as a political tool by the people agitating to pay reparations. I wonder if in 10 or 20 years there'll be reparations for, say, for example, I don't know, white people. Will there be reparations? No. Why? Well, because we can't afford it. I mean, come on, don't be silly. 65% of Americans are white. If we have to pay reparations for bigotry, we'll never be able to pay the bill. Oh, I see. Yeah. Yeah, so that's the state of play there. Let's see what else. Oh, city of St. Louis, another noted sanctuary city, is having to deal with the realities of what their policies are doing. Listen carefully to this from USA Today. Fox News. 2 Missouri residents suffering for 3 years with pungent odors and obscene actions from a homeless encampment outside their houses are taking the woke city to court. Plaintiffs Richard Baumhoff and Steve McClanahan allege that St. Louis refused to act despite multiple requests for the police and the city for a remedy. The residents say they were told by the police it was out of their hands and blamed Democrat Mayor Tashara O. Jones. According to the petition 2 residents filed, Mayor Jones allegedly ordered the police not to intervene. However, the city has proven itself willing to remove homeless tents in certain circumstances, as it did when Vice President Kamala Harris visited St. Louis in 2023, according to the petition. For 3 years, there have been 2 people living in makeshift tents in front of the houses, according to the plaintiff's attorney, W. Beavis Schock, talking to Fox News. They have a lovely front porch. They would like to go out with a nice cup of coffee in the morning, let the sun pour on them. They cannot because of the scary, smelly, noisy people that are there. They don't have the proper use of their homes because of that. The homeowners are feeling terrified of street squatters, are referred to as Doe and Roe in court documents. On some occasions, Doe and Roe have become aggressive with plaintiffs and screamed at plaintiffs and other people. Plaintiffs are scared of Doe and Roe due to their unpredictability. Plaintiffs no longer use their front porch or front yard because of the noxious odors emanating from the tent, including the smell of excrement, according to the petition. Schock said the encampment smells like poop. The individuals use the storm sewer as their toilet, which poses a health hazard to the community. Plaintiff neighbors have seen homeless people straddling over the sewer using it as a toilet. The use of storm sewer causes a public health hazard. Absolutely true. It's disgusting. These people aren't taking a shower every day. They've got garbage in their house. They see rats running around. They throw litter outside their makeshift tent, including things like chicken bones that draw vermin. Schock said his clients are compassionate people, hope the problem would resolve on its own. They cannot handle it anymore. They do yell a lot. It's kind of scary, and not my clients aren't brave people who can handle somebody yelling at them once in a while, but it's uncomfortable for them because of that. The pair, the plaintiffs, whose home has no value in the marketplace with the homeless encampment, are not able to park in front of their home, use the front entrance, mow the lawn. They also fear for their safety of their guests, according to the lawsuit. Doe and Roe occasionally emerge to wash themselves. Doe wraps a towel around his waist, but then exposes himself when switching from towel to clothing. When Kamala Harris visited St. Louis, there were a bunch of homeless people living in the tents on city grounds. They removed them all. I don't know where they went. She got rid of them for the big visit of the Vice President of the United States, so they can move them out whenever they want to. They just have to want to, and that's a big factor in this case. It's unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. This is leftist governmental policy, where everybody is important except for the voters. All people are more important than Americans. It's unbelievable. Now, I'm not saying that homeless people aren't Americans. They most certainly are. But when we look at this straightforwardly, objectively, and oh, by the way, something that's out of style in the United States, honestly, the problems and remedies are clear. That's what I believe. How about you? 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. Love it when people make these decisions but don't have to live with the accountability, at least so far. That's what elections are for. Hopefully the elections that we participate in will be valid. There's no reason to believe that they won't be. Is there? This is the Wells Report. Coming up in just a couple of seconds. It is a rare day. It only happens once every 4 years. It is Leap Day. Leap Day. The 29th day of February. Why do we have Leap Day? How did all this happen? What does it mean? What if we didn't have Leap Day? We'll touch on all of that as we continue. Our telephone number, 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. The Wells Report for Thursday. Leap Day continues next.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning-fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. We have these cell phones, smartphones, and they give us all kinds of really cool stuff like breaking news. Something I wanted to cover earlier today, but haven't had a chance to do that. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell is stepping down at the end of the year. And guess who's running to replace him? Why, Senator John Cornyn. U.S. Senator John Cornyn kicked off his campaign to succeed Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell after he steps aside in November. Throughout my time, I built a track record of listening to colleagues seeking consensus while leading the fight to stop bad policies that are harmful to our nation and the conservative cause, said John Cornyn in a statement. Cornyn is considered a top contender for the position. he has long wanted to have, but others are expected to run. Senator John Thune, the Republican from South Dakota, is the current Republican whip, often cited as the front runner for the position. Also, U.S. Senator John Barrasso, the Republican from Wyoming, is said to be interested in making a run for that job. We'll have more details on that on the Friday edition of the Wells Report. That's tomorrow. It'll be Flannel Shirt Friday, so dig out your flannel shirt. And we'll be showing up all together when that happens. So, leap year. Thursday, February 29th is a once in every 4-year event. My gosh, it's quadrennial. Leap years typically happen every 4 years. There are some exceptions. Our last leap days were in 2020 and 2016. The next leap year will be in 2028. And since this is a day that doesn't come around often, people are celebrating in different ways. Businesses offer special deals and commemorations, and others finally celebrate their February 29th birthday. Yeah. There is a superb explanation of Leap Day, and that comes to us from WSPA in Spartanburg, South Carolina, and let's let you see it.
It's a leap day. You know, February only normally has 28 days. Well, this year, that has 29. So WSVA First Alert meteorologist Tyler Seabury is also live in the studio today. Tyler, there is a purpose behind Leap Day. Explain it for us.
Yeah, and no one woke up one day and decided we're going to add a day to February every 4 years. So what is the reasoning behind it? Well, it actually goes all the way back to 46 BC with Julius Caesar trying to figure out how to match up a calendar with how long it takes Earth to go around the sun. It actually, for all 4 seasons, for a full day, it's not 365 days like you often hear. It's actually 365.25 days. That doesn't seem like much, but eventually over time, if we didn't account for this, our calendars would be messed up. So to account for it, every 4 years, well, you get 0.25 extra of a day for 4 straight years. That adds up to a full day. Thus, every 4 years, you add a day to the end of February. So that's really the fix here, because here's what would happen. The fraction of a day that we have each year, if we did not do leap day or leap year, well, guess what? At some point down the road, Halloween would be occurring in the middle of the summer, Easter would be in the winter, and it would be snowing on the 4th of July. That's really what would happen if we did not. Now, it would take time to get to those points, of course, but if we didn't do leap years, that's what would end up happening. Our calendars would be all sorts of jumbled. So leap year, certainly something that helps keeps things in check, Bethany. It's not a random day for no reason at all whatsoever. There have been many attempts to fix all of this over the years, but the way we do it now is about as good as it's going to get. It's never going to be perfect or exact because technically that year is 365.2422 days. But this, what we do now with leap year, is about as good as it's going to get. The next one, of course, would be 2028, followed by 2032, and so on.
All right, so there are approximately 1,461 people that are born every day on leap year, on leap day. And how do they celebrate their birthdays every year? Well, what you would do if I had a child that was born on leap day, what I would do is I would celebrate their birthday on the 20th of February and stop worrying about all that kind of stuff. But there you go. That being said, what's fascinating about that is that once again, according to this report, the Romans knew that the world circled the sun. I don't know what happened since the dissolution of the Roman Empire, but in Europe, there were all kinds of problems with that. Galileo was thrown in prison because he believed that the earth rotated around the sun, not the other way around. So I don't know how that was a disconnect, but it certainly was. And you'll note that it's 3.24 something or other, which is why we have things known as leap seconds. But what's fascinating to me is how did the Romans actually calculate what these days are? And how were they able to come up with a leap day? Well, it's the winter and summer solstice. And so the technology that is involved in that particular governmental policy going all the way back to Julius Caesar is something that is based on observational reality. And so it is leap day. It is an extra day in February, my favorite month because I was born in it. And use your extra day wisely. I don't know what you would do, but I do know that there are businesses that do indeed come up with special promotions. I have one for Southwest Airlines. What they should do is they should have some kind of airline ticket special, right? And they should base it around something around 29, right? The number 29, whether it's $129 or $229 or whatever. And what you could do is I could see the billboard now. Take a flying leap. What do you think? Huh? No? Yeah. Well, okay. You didn't have to be that cruel about it. I mean, my God. Jeez. This is the Wells Report. We do this every day, 9 to 11 a.m. Central Time. Please, if you find value in the show, share it with your friends. Subscribe. Hit the notification button. Give us those likes and thumbs ups. They matter. And we'll come back tomorrow for Flannel Shirt Friday on the Wells Report. Until then, God bless you. And just like that, we're finished. Boy, I don't know about you. Pretty clever, JD. I liked it. Take a flying leap. No? Yeah, I got it. No, I'm trying. So with all that being said, God bless all y'all. And I will enjoy my leap day. And you do too, please. Thank you. Have yourself a wonderful day, and I will see you again tomorrow.